The flowers are my palette. I paint pictures with the flowers, the different colors, the textures, and I use things, not just the things that I grow, but from all over the world that are bright and colorful, or they have unusual shapes, textures. It's just painting or sculpture. I was an art teacher at one point when I lived in Michigan. When we came to Kentucky, I couldn't get a teaching job, and I was always a gardener in Michigan. I started gardening here. As I went along, I dried a lot of things and played with it, and I've always wanted to create. That's basically what I like to do, is make something pretty, create something out of whatever it is I have around me. And when I taught school, I never had the energy or the time to be artistic. So with the gardens, I started growing lots of different types of flowers that I could preserve or dry. I started doing a few little local craft shows, and it just kind of grew from there. And people will say, well, why don't you just, the market wants this type of thing. Why don't you just make that and just sell that? Well, that's not art to me. I mean, sometimes you have to do that, but most of the time when I'm designing a piece, it's just for the sake of the design, the sake of the textures and the colors that I'm working with. I'm more inspired by the colors and the shapes and the sizes, textures, than I am about what the final piece will be. I see a lot of things that I know will go together well, and it might end up being a wreath, it might end up being a centerpiece. To put these things together, I use hot glue. I use a little miniature frying pan with hot glue in it. I gather up anything that I make, I take apart the raw material. Lavender, or if it's something on a stem like leaves, I end up taking all of those apart and then sculpting with them. That nothing is in its real natural state anymore, because I just change it. And the glue is really all I ever use to put it all together. I use nothing silk or artificial or plastic. I only use natural materials. In fact, I don't even like the word or term dried flowers. I'd rather call natural preserved botanicals, because that gives you a wider view of what I'm doing. They are botanicals. They're pods and seeds and cattail, anything. There are all kinds of different shapes that grow in nature and colors. They're not just dried flowers. It is important to give them things that they have a memory of. The most interesting one I had last year was a lady she was German. She had pictures of these straw flower balls that used to hang in her house, or her mother's house, or her grandmother's house, I'm not sure. They were like big kissing balls, and they were completely covered with straw flowers, and then ribbons, and they hung from the ceiling. And she so desperately wanted me to reproduce those pieces for her that reminded her of her childhood and the way she grew up. And last year was a bumper crop for my straw flowers, so I had lots of colors and choices, and she was just tickled to death because I was able to give her something that she was fond of. When I wake up in the morning and look out in the backyard and see the sun coming through the leaves of whatever is out there, when I walk through the gardens, all of that inspires me. With working with preserved and dried botanicals like I do, they have a long shelf life. They'll be around for a while. They're not forever like a painting, but they're still going to be there for a while. I love my gardens. And I love the work, and I love going to shows and meeting people. All of it.